Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's July 27th, 2014. This week we're going to do a lesson covering improvising on the three tonalities. Now, this week's question was sent in from Ken. He's out in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he wrote in with this email. I was wondering about something you said from an old video, how a part of our guitar practicing should be improvising and that we need to learn how to solo in at least three main tonalities. Well, I looked up tonalities and all I could find is that there's two, major and minor. Can you tell me what's the third tonality, and can you also cover the best way to get started making up guitar solos? From Ken in Indianapolis, Indiana, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Ken. Let's start off with the theory portion. In classical music theory, we will find tonality separated between the two, major and minor. However, in more contemporary music theory, or in jazz theory, we tend to associate the blues tonality, or in other words, the use of dominant seventh chords applied to the first, fourth, and fifth harmonic degrees of the scale, as being blues tonality. Now, blues tonality, if you're wondering, if we write a chart out for a blues piece, it is written in the major key. So that's the theory end of it. But in this video, I'll be running through some easy practice approaches for incorporating improvisation studies into your daily routine to cover the major, minor, and blues tonalities. Well, practicing the major, minor, and blues tonalities is a study on the guitar that's both simple and at the same time it can be a lot of fun. So while most of the method books and even the good guitar teachers out there will, albeit correctly, tell you that the best way to lock down the sound of the tonalities is to go at them by way of the root and the fourth and the fifth harmonic degrees. What's not said very often is where the fun factor can be increased through all of this by way of how you do that. So let's have a run through my first example, which happens to be just a 1-4-5 in the key of A major. And this is done and incorporating different voicings, however, to those chords, which would be the A major, D major, and the 5th chord of E major. What I've done differently is I've taken the triads, built them exclusively off of the 4th guitar string going to the 2nd guitar string, and I've used a bunch of different smaller voicings across the fingerboard and kind of built them up along the entire span of the guitar fretboard. I put a lot of open A bass note in there. So anyway, this is what the progression sounds like. Moving laterally using a lot of those voicings, and basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire up my loop pedal. I've got this set of changes programmed into the pedal, and I'm just going to basically play over it a little bit in a real simple manner using the A major scale and just kind of give you an idea what this thing sounds like when you put A major sounds on top of that set of changes. Here we go. All right, next let's just do the exact same kind of thing with the minor tonality and its set of tonic, subdominant, and dominant family chords. Or, if you're not familiar with the chord family names, it's also just basically the 1-4-5 of the key center. You should get used to those chord family names, though. You study that a little bit. I'm going to remain from off of that root of A for the next progression. It's going to give us the chords of A minor, D minor, and E minor in this key center. And once again, to increase the fun factor here, I'll be creating some interesting inversions while maintaining that open 5th string A drone in the bass. The only slight difference in this progression will be a couple of open chords I'm going to include in the final measure. We'll have a big E minor and an A minor just to give us a little bit more push in the turnaround back to the top. So here's how this chord progression is going to sound. It's going to start on an A minor. We'll have a D minor with that A droning in the bass. Then we're going to head down to an E minor with A in the bass. And then we'll have our open position A minor chord. We'll start from there, come up into the D minor with A in the bass, and then we'll have E minor open to A minor open. So altogether, the progression is going to move like so. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to fire up the loop pedal. I've got all these changes in here, and I'm going to jam out on these changes for you. Just play some simple key of A minor scale and arpeggio ideas, and we'll just have some fun with it. Well, in wrapping up, I've put together a blues tonality practice progression, and this jam once again applies those 1, 4, and 5 chords, but they're all going to be from this tonality of dominant 7th, so we have that quality of chord of dominant 7th for all those, and in order to really generate that blues tonality, you need to have those dominant 7th chord qualities on each of the chord names. And if we're going again, I'm sticking everything here today in the key of A, so that would give us an A dominant 7th, a D dominant 7th, an E dominant 7th as the 5 chord, bringing it back to the A again. You can hear that resolution. And the blues-based chord progression that I put together, again, it's kind of a different feel. It's operating off of an open A string 5th. I'm trying to keep with that theme here. And I'm using the tones between the 4th and the 2nd strings again. This time, though, I'm highlighting the notes that are really colorful for the dominant 7th chord. So I have that G in there, and I have that C sharp in there. That's for the A7. And then when we do the D7, what I'm going to do for that one is just take it right off the root of that 5th string. I'm going to play a standard, dominant 7th shape there. Then go back to the A, and then I'll do the same thing for the E. I'll just have a standard, blues shape there off the 5th string for that E7. There's going to be a little turnaround guitar lick riff in there too. You can hear that little turnaround riff I'll put in. That's just dropping down from an A to a G to an open E, and right back on into the open A string again. So here's how this riff operates. Just simple as that, and that'll be looping around. I'm going to throw that on the loop pedal as well, and give you a chance to kind of hear me play over this. And if you're wondering what scale I'm going to play over this one, obviously with the A major progression we did at first, that was A major scale, and then when we switched to minor, obviously that was the A minor scale that I was using on that one. But for this one, we're going to just stick with the blues scale, which is a minor pentatonic, but it has a flat 5 in it. So I'm going to use that scale and play over top of that jam, and just fire up the loop pedal and have some fun. Here we go. the study of improvisation can take quite a lot of time and effort, from learning all the scales and arpeggios to the countless hours and days and weeks and months that it's going to take to reach a certain comfort level with your playing technique and your style, and just how natural it winds up becoming for you down the road. But it's also important to keep a few things in mind. First of all, working through different keys, applying different kinds of 1-4-5 chord progressions is very helpful. Of course, it's important to expand beyond that, make your progressions more complex, get into modes, get into leaving key centers, modulation, and eventually, of course, try to play over jazz changes. That would be sort of the pinnacle of everything. And the second thing that's really important to do is to make sure that your progressions are fun and interesting when you create them. Making up dull, boring, run-of-the-mill chord progressions, it's not going to really inspire you to get any better generally, and it's not really going to keep you motivated to pick up the guitar as much as you need to every day, nor will it really help you with inventing new and interesting playing concepts or even expanding your style. So make sure your progressions are interesting, spend quite a bit of time creating them, and once they're built and you've recorded them, you can use them for a week or so until you move on into something new. So, make sure your progressions are interesting, and I think the better that these jam tracks are that you create, in the long run, the better your guitar solos will become. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.